Welcome to another episode of Fellow Freaks, our Freaks of the Vine offshoot, where we talk to people who are having an impact of the kingdom of God. Today is no different, as we have the drummer of an up-and-coming wonderful band, power metal, called InnerSiege. And today we welcome Wade Helm to the helm. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey,
man?
nice to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. An honor. Hey, you like our Christmas wreath?
I do.
I literally just took it off the front door and put it on there just so we had
that works.
Recording this in December of 23. So we're almost there. A couple weeks away from Christmas.
Oh, I know. Crazy, right?
I know. Are you ready?
No, I am a typical husband / male, meaning I haven't even started shopping yet. So, yeah.
Good for you. Good job.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're totally forgiven. So where exactly are you located, brother?
We are in central Illinois. So we are pretty much smack dab between St. Louis and Chicago. So it's 2.5 hours either direction to those cities. And then we're like an hour north of Springfield, which is our state capital. So yeah, kind of right in the middle.
Okay.
Peoria area, if you've heard of Peoria. So
yeah, absolutely.
I don't live in Peoria, but nobody's heard of the town where we are, so I just say Peoria.
That's a lot of times when I'm talking to somebody globally or internationally or whatever the case is and across the states, they want to know where we're at. And I always tell them, instead of Topeka, which is the capital of Kansas, an hour west of Kansas City, I just tell them Kansas City area. It's just easy for them to realize it's the middle of America. But I should probably give some credence to the Topeka, Kansas.
It's here for the heartland.
Yeah. That's right. Exactly. Known for the Westboro Baptist Church. So that's always awesome.
Oh, well, sorry about that.
That's the one thing that everybody brings up to me. Isn't that what the Westboro? Yep, they're here.
Unfortunately, yes.
And you're a pastor too? Yep, but not of that one.
No.
Well, Wade, okay, so let's jump right into this. I met you at the Immortal Festival, part one of the second annual Immortal Fest, right? Because this last one was the second
one. Right, yeah. So it was this year, but the first installment in July, yeah.
Okay, that was the one I went to. I'd heard about it. In fact, Stacy Roberts from The Brave told me about Immortal Fest, and then I was like, yeah, I got to go to this. So I went to the one in July. Did not go to the one in September. But were you at the second one as well?
Yeah, I've been to all three so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they split up this next year, 2024, into 2 installments as well.
Yeah, because originally they were talking about it just being one weekend and making it 3 days again. Well, now they split it into 2 weekends, and that second weekend is 3 days. That first weekend is 2 days. So it's even longer this year because we got 4 days.
I think it's tough for them because of the amount of bands that really are wanting to come and play.
Sure.
And because it's in Ohio, Versailles, Ohio, which is still considered Midwest, it's pretty easy for a lot of people, to travel to. So yeah, it's hard for them to get everybody on one weekend. And a lot of the guys who play in bands have jobs.
No, exactly. I would venture most of them do.
Yeah. A lot of Christian musicians, it's not like the music is their sole priority of revenue. So they have to work around that.
Right.
All right. So that's where we met, was in July. I think you were standing waiting for your wife to come out of the restroom. And I just was like, what's up, man? And then we just started chatting. So InnerSiege, you are the drummer. You have been. So tell us about the band.
Okay. Well, we've been together. Now, this is where it gets foggy. If you ask me a history of other bands, I can probably tell you everything about, Kiss or Iron Maiden, but my own band, I sometimes can't get the facts straight. We were in a band called Strangeland. A few of the same members were in Strangeland. And we were around from 2003 to maybe 2007, something like that. So Jeremy was in that for a little bit. He's our singer, Kevin, our guitar player, and myself. So then that band kind of folded, and we we still want to do something. So sort of out of the ashes of that band came InnerSiege. So I'd say somewhere around probably 2008, we started that band. So, and we've had a couple of membership changes. We had a different guitar player named Kevin for a little bit, another Kevin. But then Jerry came into the band, and Robin, our bass player, came into the band. So probably this lineup has been solidified 2009-ish, somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. So you guys are going on 15 years together.
Yeah, which really is kind of a miracle of bands, right? To have the same guys and stick together that long. And yeah, but I mean, We've been very blessed in this band because everybody's super easygoing. Everybody's chill. We're just guys who love music and want to share a message and want to play. And, there's no drama ever. So, we're very blessed in that regard.
Right on. That's great. Now you guys is that correct? You have 2 full length album?
Yeah, the first album, we're like Boston. Remember how their albums were like 6, 7 years apart, you know? So we put out the first one, came out at the very end of 2012. I think it was like December 18th or something. It was late in December. So we kind of had like the album release in January of 2013. And then the second album didn't come out till 21. So yeah, we had a little gap there.
Sure, sure. Well, if things begin to roll more, obviously, and you guys write more music, you'll create a time and not give such a gap between recordings, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, there was just a lot of life, if you will, that happened. I mean,
Absolutely.
we had a lot of things going on. Our guitar player, Jerry, had a stroke, which he's not that old, but he had a stroke. So he was in recovery and didn't even play guitar for a while. As soon as he's starting to get back to health and feeling better and able to play guitar for longer durations of time, his wife went to the ER one night, not feeling good, found out she had like some sort of form of like leukemia and cancer. And so she had to start going through treatments, and she had a stem cell transplant. And so for basically about 2 years of the band, it was just sort of chaos. So that's probably some of the things that contributed to the album taking so long. Also, our guitar player, Kevin, was going through some life change. They were possibly going to be moving overseas, and then that all kind of changed. They ended up staying here. But yeah, there was just a lot going on. It sort of delayed the album, delayed the recording for the second release. And then we did it all ourselves, which of course was a learning curve. So, I mean, we basically had to learn how to record, how to mix, how to engineer. And kudos to our lead singer, Jeremy, because he put, I don't know how many hours in. I mean, he basically did all the recordings. We recorded the drums in his living room. We did like the guitar leads in my basement. He did his vocals himself in his little home studio. And then learning how to mix it, mastering, get everything to sit right in the mix and all that. And then he also is a photographer, so he did the band photography. He did all our graphic design. He designed all like the inserts and everything. So he just Jeremy did a ton of work. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. You guys, you know, I find it so hard for people to understand how much goes into recording, especially when you're producing it yourself.
Yeah.
Mixing, mastering, all that. So
well, the first album, you know, we basically did the recording locally at a studio, but then we're like, you know what, we want to, if we're going to do this, you know, our goal is always to be as professional as we can. I mean, we want the artwork on par with the Iron Maidens and Firewinds and Dream Evils of the world. We want the music to sound that good, you know, sonically. We want to have killer artwork. We want to have killer packaging. So when we finished the first album, we're like, we don't want to just release this ourselves. And, you know, we wanted to have it professionally mixed and mastered. So we all talked about it and said, man, if we could get anybody to do it, we want to get Frederick Nordstrom from Dream Evil, because if you've heard the stuff he puts out, I mean, he does killer production, because he's not only in Dream Evil as the guitar player, but he produces and mixes all kinds of other bands. So we thought, it'll never happen. So just through a series of crazy circumstances, somebody we knew had like his business card. Well, we had a friend who's living here now, and he's from Sweden. So we actually got on a phone call, had him sort of interpret, talked to Frederick Nordstrom, got the ball rolling. He said, yeah, I've got some time in like April. I can mix and master it for you guys. Then we had to kind of go like, oh, can we raise that much money? Because it wasn't cheap. And I mean, lo and behold, a guy who was a fan of the band blessed us by sending us a check with more zeros than we expected. And I mean, we were able to like get the album mixed and mastered by Frederick Nordstrom. The artwork was done by a guy in Brazil who's done covers for like Firewind and all kinds of bands. So same thing. We thought he'll never want to do us. We're a no-name band. He won't want to do us. And we contacted him. He's like, yeah, I'll do it for like $600. It's like, that's all. So
wow.
We had to work on getting the money transferred to him and all that. So we had the artwork by a guy in Brazil, mixed and mastered by a guy in, you know, Sweden, recorded locally in Peoria. So the second album, we did we didn't have the money basically to use Nordstrom again. So we had to mix and master it ourselves, but we did use the same guy for the artwork in Brazil. So yeah, it's just been really cool to sit back and watch all these things fall into place, knowing it's not us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's what the way we serve a God that makes things happen when we are not expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
Talk about, in the latest album, the one that came out in 21, Fury of Ages. That's obviously the one that you guys did a lot of the work on. So not taking away from that first one that you guys put so much work into. But the second one, the second album, which is the most recent, World of Darkness. when I listen to that track, it really blows me away that, for instance, I use Spotify for music listening a lot, and it's you guys. There are good. Let me put it this way: the way my brain works, which is a scary place. Power metal, Christian power metal, or power metal at all, it has its niche of listener.
Sure.
However, I think more people will like it or do like it or find that they really enjoy it if they give it a listen. I know for a fact that there are people who just do not like vocals that they can't understand.
Sure.
Okay. I do, but I also love smooth jazz. So I find myself in always liking music that it's tantalizing to the senses and the ears. When I really gave your second album a listen a couple of months ago, I found that track so beautiful. Can you talk about the development of your songs and what you guys are after?
Sure. Well, really, I mean, I think you'll find with a lot of bands, and maybe especially metal bands, it all starts with a riff. You got to have that riff that just kind of grabs you. So again, Jeremy, even though he's our lead singer, he's a guitar player too, so he is just like a riff machine. He comes to practice all the time with, "Hey guys, I got this new riff," So we had a CD that probably had 50 riff ideas on it. And so when we started working on the second album, we just started listening to him and going, "Well, I like that one. I like that one." And some of them might be just a 10-second riff, but you can do something with it, right? We can add something to that. We can make it something more. So that's kind of how every song on the album came about. Really, was just a small riff idea that we just sat down here in my basement, because that's where we practice, and we worked on trying to expand on. And okay, we don't want to drive that riff into the ground, so we need to do like key change here, or do something different here, and just kind of really everybody adding their 2 cents to it. That's kind of how we write our songs. And then Jeremy does the main lyrics as well. So yeah, it's really just, that's what's really cool. I mean, it really is a group effort. We all kind of throw our input in, and musically, I mean, obviously we all come from a heavy metal background, but I mean, even within that, it's different genres of heavy metal. Like Robin, our bass player, is from Norway. He played in a black metal band when he lived in Norway. It was like, 180 from our style, right? So,
right.
And he was the singer / guitar player in his black metal band. So he was doing all the really harsh, growly vocals and all that stuff. And then Kevin, our guitar player, is like, he loves Yngwie, he loves Steve Vai, all that kind of stuff. And then Jerry, our other guitar player, he loves Symphony X and Michael Romeo and all kinds of different guitar shredders and stuff. And then there's me, who I'm like the 80s metal guy in the band, right? I cut my teeth on Kiss as a kid, right? 1978. I was 10 years old. Kiss was huge. So it was Kiss, but then in around 1980, I started to discover Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and all this other stuff that was a little heavier. I'm like, "Ooh, I like this,"
Right.
So then the world opened up to me for heavy metal. And then you've got Jeremy, who he really, like, his two favorite bands are probably like Queensryche and Crimson Glory for their singers, for Midnight and
amazing.
So I think if you throw all that in a blender, that's kind of what comes out with InnerSiege.
Well, I think that's the beauty of bands and the way the musical styles come together. You have to have a different views of music.
Yeah.
And it is still, when you are in agreement to play one certain style or genre of music.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, you're going to fit into that because it's what you enjoy playing as a group together.
Well, I think that the point we came to with both our albums is, if we were just to, like, somebody gave this to us to say, "Hey, take a listen," would we like it? I mean, I want to play stuff I like.
Right. Right.
I want to play something that gets me energized. And I'm like, "That's a cool song," So yeah, I mean, honestly, from day one of gravitating to music, I've always loved heavy metal. I mean, that's really honestly the only thing I listen to. I mean, I will listen to some classic rock. I mean, I love Journey and Foreigner and Styx and some of that stuff, but really, I mean, 99.9% of the time, I'm just listening to heavy metal. And I don't want to play something I don't like. So,
right.
So that's the other thing I've always said, is I don't really want to, no offense to anybody that likes it, but I couldn't be in a country band or a pop band.
No.
I got to play what I like that gets me energized. So,
right. Now, your first album isn't available on Spotify at the moment. Now it might change. Tell us, what is the title of that album, and how can people look
Yeah.
if they look on their particular music choice preference of how they stream music, how can they find what you guys play? And then if they really like it, they can always invest in it.
Yeah.
You guys have a website.
Yeah, Kingdom of Shadows is the first album. I honestly am not sure what all services it might be on anymore, but
Okay.
it's on YouTube. I mean, if you go to InnerSiege Metal on YouTube, that's just our personal channel. I think every song from the first album is on there.
Okay.
So if you want to check it out on there and listen to it, if you go to our website, InnerSiege.com, obviously we've got things for sale on there. Now, I will say, I think at the moment we might be out of Kingdom of Shadow CDs. I think we're needing to do a reprint of them. So,
okay.
Or else we're very, very low on them. So,
okay, we'll post that up.
InnerSiege.com or Facebook or YouTube. We're pretty active on all those. So.
Okay. Gage will post that up on the availability. So just to send people to YouTube for now and check that out. And then your website, because your website will obviously talk about things that you guys are doing. And that is one thing that I wanted to, I want to talk about something you guys are going to be doing. When Dave Cruz affirmed it the other night, or confirmed it, when he posted something about it, and Dave Cruz hosts the Covenant Metal radio show, and he's actually going to be our next guest on
awesome.
Fellow Freaks, because we want to have him on to talk about Covenant Metal radio. And I want to get Christian Sullivan on sometime too, because he has a great podcast, the Christian Metal Onslaught out of California. This is a way to obviously share different types of music, and those guys really we're definitely differently focused on Freaks of the Vine as a talking podcast about cultural issues from a biblical perspective of Christianity. But we do this Fellow Freaks to kind of just highlight people. But it's not just music. I've had, Alan Hunter from The Polite Leader, who's on YouTube, and Jordan Riley, who has a Real Talk with Jordan Riley. We've had him on talking about their channels. And then we've had other musicians, of course, too. But I really wanted to talk to you because you and I hit it off pretty well. And I could tell that you really cared about your band. And that was something that we had talked in July. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get a hold of you. In fact, you were talking to somebody, and I said, your wife, I said, please let him know that I'll reach out to him and find him. And then we finally connected, and then we finally got a chance to talk today. And that, when we booked this the other day, when you and I were like, yep, this will work on, we'll do this, set up the time and the date. Dave posted that night that you guys are going to be at the, one of the acts coming up at Immortal Fest this next July.
Yeah.
About time that they got you on the bill. And they got you on the same weekend with a band that the same day that you and I were talking, I listened all day long to Spoken's first album.
Okay.
And then Dave posted it, and I'm like, Spoken's going to be there. I was kind of right for a minute. Deliverance is coming back. Reign of Glory is coming back. Theocracy is coming back.
Yeah.
So it's really
Human Code. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what a great weekend that's going to be. How cool was it that you guys finally got on the bill?
Awesome. It's funny because Steve Barhorst, he's the owner of BMI. He reached out to me, and I think it was this week, just earlier in the week. And he's like, hey, would you guys want to play Immortal Fest? And I'm like, I'm sure the answer is yes, but let me just hit up the rest of the band. And of course, everybody was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So wrote him back the same night and said, we're all in. Let me know what we need to do. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to play it. I mean, I've attended every single one. When the first one happened, I thought this may be the last chance to see some of these bands. I mean, let's face it, Barren Cross and some of these bands, I mean, you don't know how much longer they're going to be around or playing. And it was like, I felt like a 19-year-old me again. Because, I grew up on Christian metal. I mean, when Striper came out in 1984, 85, I was like, finally, here's some music I can listen to that's got a great message and fits my style. Yeah, and then I dove just headfirst into Bloodgood and Early Saint, Messiah Prophet, all that. And then I just followed Christian metal ever since then. So to get to play with, like, I hate to say idols, but with the guys that I looked up to, the guys that influenced me, the bands I listened to that were formative in my years as a young Christian, to get to play with them was just so cool. And to play that stage, I mean, it's an awesome venue,
Yeah.
So, I mean, because we're mostly playing smaller clubs and bars and things. So to get to play someplace like that is really cool.
I don't know if people really understand it's hard to explain a venue. A venue's a venue. Most of the time, it's pretty cool. I was legitimately blown away at BMI Event Center because you see it from first of all, the town's like at 18 people.
Right. It's tiny.
It is, but it's beautiful. That downtown strip is beautiful.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And then you get to the end of the town, and there's this huge building, and it's called the BMI Event Center, and it doesn't look like it much from the outside. It's clean, but you go inside, and it was a go-kart track?
Yeah, we were talking to Steve about it, the owner, and he said when he first kind of opened, he had like an indoor dirt track and all kinds of stuff in there.
That's what it was. Yep.
But then he was talking about how that once summer hit, nobody was coming to the indoor dirt track because you can just go outside and do it. So he realized, okay, this isn't really going to fly. So they kind of looked at what could they do with the space, and they turned it into this event center. You know, I mean, they have other stuff in there besides concerts. I know you can rent it for like wedding receptions and parties and things like that too. But it's a super cool venue.
It is, and they've got the TVs all the way around.
Oh yeah,
with the high definition televisions, but it pops. The stage is cool. It's very friendly for fans. So all the bands set up their tables, and they have a TV behind. So that's obviously advertising that band. You can walk right up, talk to anybody as long as they're at their table. So it's really interactive. That's what I really loved about going.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people attended this last one, but it probably or the one in July that I went to, felt like about 800, 900 people maybe total. I mean, it was a really good crowd, right? Maybe 1,000, less than 1,000 at any one time, but it was really, really fun. I thoroughly enjoyed hanging out and getting to meet lots of people, yourself included, and talk to, was talking to Jim Laverde's, his bass player from there. Jim Laverde is the bass player from Baron. This is the praise and worship leader for Sanctuary Church. And he was there. Of course, they got up and played. And as I was talking to Jim's bass player in his praise team, her son is the drummer for Jeff Tate.
Yeah, it was crazy when she said that, or when I heard that. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and he was asleep in the car. We got done with having like a study. We walked over and he banged on his window and woke him up, and he's like, he was just coming off a tour with Jeff Tate from Queensrÿche, and it was like, so I talked to him a little bit. I was like, is Jeff pretty cool? He's like, yeah, he treats us all really kindly. We just had this really nice, it was just a neat conversation.
Yeah, that was crazy because I was like, I knew because she had mentioned that was her son, and then when I found out he plays for Jeff Tate, I'm like, what? That's crazy.
You had a chance to visit with him.
Yeah.
So when you guys are going to play this venue, and obviously all this means something, and it glorifies God. Everything you do, obviously your lyrics, the music. I really want to recommend people. In fact, right now, before I ask you this next question, we're going to throw in a little clip of the song that Gage will pull off from your first album, and just kind of share the people the quality of music that you guys put out on your first record right here. On that first album, again, I'm talking with Wade Helm from the drummer from InnerSiege, and he is our guest today on Fellow Freaks. But Wade, when you think about that first album, second album, can you kind of just pick one that you love to play, or something that is really sentimental on both albums?
I think on the first album, I mean, still to this day, we almost 90% of the time probably open our shows with Dragon Rider. Just that song kind of caught on. It went, so always goes over well. So I love Dragon Rider. I love Excuses on the first album, and I like lyrically what Excuses is talking about too. Second album, I love playing Reborn.
It's a great song.
Yeah, I like playing Stronghold. And I love the lyrics on that one too. I think Jeremy did a great job kind of crafting that one. So yeah, those are probably the ones that stand out for me to play, and just I enjoy listening to those songs too.
Well, and I don't mean to cut on anybody who plays any kind of power metal, but it's really tough. Your singer is going to be the one that everybody recognizes first, or is gravitating to. If you have a bad, like for instance, I always want to say it's the wrong band. It's a secular band, Gage, not Killswitch Engage, because they're awesome, but the other band that always, Avenged Sevenfold.
Mm-hmm.
Musically amazing. Yeah. I cannot stand that lead singer. You want to just, it's not my cup of tea, man. As soon as I hear that whiny, and I'm like, done, I'm out. Musically, phenomenal. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one who agrees with this, but there are people who didn't like Robert Plant, people who didn't like,
Sure.
Paul Stanley, whatever. I
Yeah.
get it. People that hate Bruce Dickinson. You're not going to be listening any further than the lead singer. But having a
Right.
singer that is good, I mean, your singer is Kevin is very good. It's not Kevin, excuse me, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
But obviously with the lyric writing, and he's able to pull that off. How does he do live?
Really good. I mean,
I believe it.
it's interesting because he really does take care of his voice. I mean, he knows it's an instrument. He takes care of it. So
And
it's funny because he's got this little like vaporizer thing, and somebody thought he was like vaping one time. Like, no, it's actually like it's just like almost what asthmatics would use or something. You just put like
yeah,
I don't know, probably just it just
the Vicks
heats
or
up and
something
gets
in there.
steam
Yeah.
into your throat to kind of loosen your vocal cords. So he'll be back there before we play, like with that thing. He doesn't talk a lot on show days on purpose to save his voice. Drinks a ton of water on show days. Just things to really take care of his voice. And he had a scare like years ago. He was in a different band, and they actually won like some Battle of the Bands thing and won like a recording contract with Rex Carroll. So they went to Rex Carroll's studio to
White
record with
Cross.
him. And in the process of like doing that recording with Rex, he like blew out his vocal cords and scared him because he couldn't sing for a long time. He had to work with a vocal coach, all kinds of stuff. And so he was worried he'd never be able to like sing again.
Wow.
Because, I mean, he likes to hit those high screams and he can do it. And he's afraid he wouldn't be able to do it. So ever since then, it's like, yeah, he really babies his voice, which is a good thing. So
have you ever heard the recording of Puddle of Mud, lead singer, when they were like in a studio? It was like, I don't know if it was Howard Stern or somebody, but they're sitting around just for fun. I got to throw it on this episode. It was somebody who does not take care of their voice and didn't warm up before singing. Okay. You listen to 8 seconds of this and it's terrible. And you're like, oh, man. So
yeah,
I'm going to throw it on right now.
But you have a clue. Take it, then it's wrong. You hang me out to dry.
This is what happens when you don't take care of your voice. So
yeah,
so saying something like Jeremy, for Jeremy, he obviously he takes care of it. He prepares. He's conscientious of it on gig day. But he has got such a gift with writing lyrics, and that's the key. Because if you're gonna be professing the name of Christ, all right, you can hide in that shell, and but you can also talk about things that are practical. And that's where I think a lot of people misunderstand Christian metal. They think because it's tagged metal, then they, it's like not everybody, that first wave of Christian metal in the late 80s, like Deliverance, way different lyrically than what Jim writes today. As equally relevant, but it's going to be a bit different because things change, and we have the scripture does not. God never changes, but our culture does. And so sometimes you have to attack the things of the culture.
right.
I noticed that with some of your guys' lyrics on the latest record. Sure. So I really like the fact that Jeremy curtails to attacking things, but always relying on God as the power and the presence, of the Holy Spirit.
Well, that's one thing at band practice, like I'm sure most bands are like this because we see each other once a week. So we get together and first hour band practice is just talking and catching up. And, but we talk a lot about what we see going on in the world, whether it's what's happening in Israel or whether it's just what's happening with just our culture and the crazy shifts happening. Or, did you see what this person said on Facebook? Or, a lot of that, our band practice is talking about what we see culturally happening and the things that sadden us or sicken us or, make us frustrated or angry. And, so I think that comes out in our music.
Well, what better place to have it come out in?
Yeah.
I think it needs to. I think if you're going to be fed, and you're going to be fed a biblical perspective on any topic, it should come through with music. I think it should, because it's a wonderful way, an avenue to express, what we're saying, but always clamoring back for the love of Christ. Tell me about your faith walk.
Yeah. Well, so I made a personal decision to follow Christ when I was trying to think 1984 in the fall. So I was 16. So I'd grown up in a Christian home, as young as I can remember. I remember going to Sunday school when I was a little kid, going to church every Sunday. I had parents who, instilled faith and values in me, but I just hadn't embraced it for myself. I'm like, well, mom and dad are cool, so I guess I'm good. It was, that kind of thing. sometimes I think it's harder for the person who lives a, you know, good life, so to speak, to come to Christ than somebody who's maybe been in the gutter and realizes, oh, they need Christ. Because sometimes you can feel like, I'm doing good on my own. I don't really need Christ. And so I think that's where I was at as a teenager. I'm like, listen, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't cuss, I don't party. I was a pretty boring kid, you know. Pretty much a rule follower, etc. So like, I'm doing good.
Sure.
But then a friend of mine who, I mean, from the time we were kids, witnessed to me. I mean, he was just always witnessing to me. I'd spend the night at his house and he'd be like, we're going to do a Bible study before we go to bed. I'm like, what? You know, and he would do devotions with me. So he invited me to church camp. I only went so he would get off my back because he kept asking me to go. I'm like, it's going to be boring. It's going to be dorky. I don't want to go. So what happens? I go to church camp, got saved that weekend. I mean, the speaker on Sunday morning was speaking to me. I mean, it was like, wow, you know, that kind of thing. You're sitting there, your palms are sweating. You're like, why do I feel this way? How does that guy know that about me? So yeah, I got saved that morning on Sunday, and then that was it. You know, never looked back from that point.
That's awesome, brother. You know, you can't drive home that point enough where faith comes by hearing and hearing through the words of Christ. And that is why the preached word is so important, because at any point the Holy Spirit's going to draw you.
Oh, exactly.
John 6:44 says, Jesus quotes, you know, nobody can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. So it's through the preached word that we hear the truth of repentance and faith in Christ Jesus. And so hearing that day, that was your time, man. God spoke to you through that man by the way of the Holy Spirit and drew you. And what a beautiful story, brother. Nice job.
Yeah.
Nice
no, it's awesome. Well, the really cool thing about that is my wife was also invited with her friend that weekend. So she was also at the camp. She also got saved that weekend. And so we get back from camp and my wife and I start dating, I don't know, month after that camp. Well, the rest is history. We're still together.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, you did date yourself by saying how old you were in 84, but you're only a couple of years older than I am, and you look extremely younger than me. So congratulations on that.
Well, it's just because I shave everything off that would, you know, give away the gray.
That's maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe I can pull that one off too. Every time I do, my wife's like, stop shaving your head.
Well, that's the funny part too, because, you know, a lot of bands, right? You're trying to make it when you're 20 or 30. We're 55. I'm 55. And the band's just now starting to get some traction, right? So it's just funny how things, you know, maybe don't happen in our time frame, but you know, in God's timing, and you know, we're just willing to do whatever. Even, you know, I'm sitting here like looking at bands like Iron Maiden, go, okay, Nico from Iron Maiden's like 70 or something still out there drumming. Rob Halford is like 70 or 71, and these guys are still bringing it. So
it's, you know, it's amazing. Well, you know, you're right. You're absolutely right. Sammy Hagar's he just announced him and Mike Anthony are going to tour again. And they're going to bridge a lot of the old Van Halen stuff together, and which is really cool because they did they have the guitar player Joe Satriani playing and Jason Bonham playing drums. They threw out the invitation to Alex Van Halen and David Lee Roth to join them. David Lee Roth has accepted. He's going to jump up and do a couple songs, which is cool. But Sammy Hagar at 75 sounds as good today as he did 40 years ago. It's all on how you take care of yourself. Whatever that guy has, you need to bottle it, because he's still like a dynamo, you know. It's hard to when you hear some people sing badly. Axl Rose doesn't sound as good today. And we'll leave it at that. So there's a lot of guys in the secular or Christian realm. Sometimes you just got to realize to give it up. You know, it's funny though, when you talked about, you know, the age, really, it doesn't make a difference, brother. I was not called into becoming a pastor till I was 43 years old. And I'd lived a life completely before this, and 20 years in a career and working for one of the most recognizable brands in the United States or the world. And I was ready to retire in that company, and God had to change a plan. And I couldn't be more grateful that he called me into the role I do now. But it's never what we think. We think everything has to be done in our 20s and 30s. By the time we're 40, we're done and retired. And that's not how this goes. Exactly. You don't get your traction until you're 45. Yeah. Well, I know several guys I know that were in bands. They're like, you know, my goal is to make it by 30. And if I haven't made it by then, I'm done. I'm like, man, we didn't even get rolling until we were like 30. Right. Hey,
So,
everybody below the age of 45, I made that statement to just give you hope and what's your future. So when you hit 45, you're like, yeah, now the tape's rolling.
yeah. But I think you see a difference too, just like say in bands that have, the lifestyle. I mean, if you're gonna smoke like crazy and party like crazy and all those destructive behaviors, smoking is like the worst thing you could do for your voice as a singer, right? So I just think, yeah, you see bands that have kept it going, and I attribute a lot of that to clean living. What Kiss? I mean, a lot of people love or hate Kiss, whatever. But I happen to be a fan. But Paul and Gene have always lived a pretty clean lifestyle. They talk about how they didn't drink, they didn't smoke, they didn't, uh, look at some of the Christian bands. I think that's why we had a longevity with like Striper in these bands because they've led a better lifestyle.
Right, right.
And I mean, it's one thing I've never understood. I'm getting on a soapbox now, but when you're in a band, I mean, I don't want to say it's a job, but it is a job to an extent because people have paid to come see you. They expect a performance, and you should give them your best. And I never understand the bands who are just 3 sheets to the wind before they hit the stage. It's like there's no other career where you could do that and keep your job.
You're right. You're
but in rock and
absolutely
roll,
right.
we glorify that. And I'm like, I don't get it. It's like, no, if I go see a band, I want you to be on your best. I want you to be coherent, give
Yeah,
me a good show.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was it's great to watch bands that are in the faith because they have a priority of they obviously serve talented musicians that love the Lord are going to never get as popular as the secular realm will.
Right.
And they're okay with that. And they should be okay with that. But they're really okay with that because they know who they're doing it for. And they know that it's not for this world. This world is not our home. But serving Christ through music is something that it really gives us joy. I mean, as believers, as we are in the music we listen to. And I enjoy a lot of the different styles that Christian musicians have. That's the key is being able to be wide open to what comes out. Gage, you are a huge music fan.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know this, but like power metal is like a guilty pleasure of mine. But Wade, you said you had your band members came from all kinds of different backgrounds. What made you guys choose, that melodic metal out of all the others?
I think just because that's what we love the most. Now, it's funny,
you.
I say that when Robin joined the band, he moved here from Norway in 2008, and then he joined us. We were way too light for him. He hated power metal because he was playing black metal and all this, Norwegian heavy stuff. And so at first he was like, I don't want to play power metal. Well, it's funny because over the years now, he had never really given bands like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden that much of a listen or Saxon. So now he's been turned on to all these bands and he loves all that stuff, the classic metal stuff. And so I think it's just, it's what we all gravitate to. I mean, we're all huge fans of, I mentioned these bands already today in this talk, but we're all huge fans of Primal Fear, Firewind, Dream Evil, Symphony X, all that melodic heavy stuff. So I think that's just, it's what we listen to all the time. So that's kind of what we want to play as well.
Yeah. And I think it's there. That's a great point.
Yeah. Power metal and like the melodic stuff like that. It's, I love how easy it is for you guys to focus more on the story, and
That's
all
a good
the
point.
instruments back up, this like kind of this bigger picture that you guys paint. Now I love listening to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I
agree. I mean, I think even if you go back to like the early days with like Dio or old Iron Maiden songs, I mean, they told stories. I mean, Iron Maiden wrote songs like Alexander the Great,
Right.
Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, a 14-minute song based on an old poem or whatever. I mean, it's like, I just think metal to me always has had musically, sonically, those kind of landscapes that you can create with lyrics fit with that music. And I love the epic, big battle type songs and things. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And so power metal's full of that, right?
There's a Christian and a secular version of that for both. The Christian one is Theocracy, that I really like their stories. I've never really paid much attention to them until I knew they were going to be at Immortal Fest. And then I listened and I realized that they have quite a big following for good reason. Matt is an amazing vocalist.
Oh, super talented.
And live, he killed it. And then he was in the tiny little breakfast nook at the hotel. We stayed in the same hotel. And I knew it was him, but he had his hair tied back and I didn't want to bother him. He's having some breakfast, he's having a grapefruit. And I'm going right for the cinnamon rolls.
No, yeah.
You know,
Bring
so
on
they
the
get
pancakes
stuck
or
right
something,
about
yeah.
this general vicinity right here. But it was just him and I sat down and I was like, "Are you Matt?" And he goes, "Yeah, I am." And I'm like, "Cool, I'm Patrick." And then we kind of talked for a minute and chatted it up. And then I didn't say anything to him, but I asked his wife through email because I'd already spoken to her. Can I
Yeah.
interview him? And they're like, they're doing something right now. They can't really talk about it, which is the recording. After it's done with, he will. So I'm going to follow up with him. But he is a great version of what a real power metal singer is in
Oh, yeah.
a different scope. He's definitely very different from Jeremy, but Jeremy's very different from Rob Halford or somebody else. But one band that I think doesn't get a lot of run, they're more considered progressive, as a lot of these bands are in power metal too. But Fate's Warning,
Oh, yeah. Love 'em.
Fate's
Yeah.
that Disconnected is an album that never gets talked about, but it was just it was a couple, I think it was in 2000, but it's one of the coolest different power metal albums I'd ever heard. And check it out sometime. It's the one with two people, a husband and
Yeah.
wife, cuddling
Yeah.
on a bridge with gas masks. It's kind of funny, but it's a great album. But it's funny that Mark Zonder was their drummer. As the drummer, you
Mhm.
know who Mark Zonder is. Well, he's drumming now for a friend of mine. He's in a band
Really?
called Veritas, and they're kind of all over the map of the United States,
Yeah.
but they're in a band together. And they're just now starting to hit their stride too. They too are a form of power metal. Those are just bands. When you start looking into power metal, you start finding
Yeah.
out that there are lots of bands. So,
Yeah.
okay, what makes InnerSiege different? What makes you guys stand out? I mean, I know that's kind of that's asking you
Yeah.
to be egotistical. I'm not. I'm asking you, if you stood outside the box and you looked inwardly at what you guys have produced, not as the drummer, but as a fan, what makes you guys stand out differently?
Boy, that's a tough question. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, and I would say, musically, we're a good band, but I mean, obviously, we're not Fates Warning talent level or, some of Symphony X or some of these bands. There's bands I look to and I go, how did the drummer do that? I can't even figure out what he just did, So there's always something to learn musically. So I would never say we're the best band musically. But I don't know. I think what I was telling you earlier about we're five guys who truly love each other. We get along. We have fun together. I think that comes across in our music. It comes across if you see us live, which hopefully anybody coming to Immortal Fest, you'll see it in July. But we have fun on stage. We get along. I think it's the hope, the joy, things that are maybe missing from some other music.
That's a great point. That's a great point. No, that's an honest answer, brother. And I think that's gonna point out in your music. And I want people to go back again. You can pull up InnerSiege. It's spelled as one word, and we've already kind of popped that up on the screen. But you can go and check out the music anywhere. You can check it on YouTube. Probably some other avenues, right? I listen to Spotify, but where else can they listen? Do you know?
Yeah, I know the second album is on Spotify, Fury of Ages, but gosh, I'm trying to think. I don't know if we're on, some of those other streaming services or not. I don't think we're on Apple Music.
Everybody can get YouTube, so they just pull it up.
Everything's on YouTube. Yeah, like I say, our YouTube channel, you can find our albums on there, so you can go check them out on there.
All right, you guys respond to your fan mail?
We do.
People,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll talk to people one-on-one if they DM me or something, or through Facebook, and we love talking to people.
Good. Well, I'm gonna send you guys an email. I'm just gonna mess with you because we've been Freaks of the Vine for over 3 years now, and we've gotten one email, and it was somebody that told us that we sucked, and it was a friend of mine. So that was great. So we really want more people to.
Yeah, that's true.
Gauge monitors, all that.
Yep.
Any emails? Nope. You hear crickets in the background. It's all right. It's all right.
Well,
more views.
Got a funny story about crickets like that. So when I was in college, my sophomore year, they started a radio station. I'm like, oh, awesome. I want to be in on the ground level. So I went to the informational meeting, and they were just desperate because it's brand new. So they're like, we'll give anybody a show. I'm like, great. So they gave me a 2-hour show, but it was like Friday, 10 to midnight, and I did nothing but heavy metal. Well, Friday night, 10 to midnight on a college campus, not too many people sitting around going to listen to the radio show. Yes, they're out partying or whatever. So I would say something, say, hey, if anybody's out there listening, give me a call. And, the crickets literally. So I think I was doing the show for myself. I don't know if anybody was ever listening, but I had a great time.
Guarantee there's somebody listening. Yeah, I felt that way. I did a radio program from 10 to midnight on Saturday nights here in Topeka, Kansas, many years ago, from 94 to 2001 on a Christian radio station. We played a little bit of everything, but It kind of started blowing up after a while. I think there was just
Yeah.
people that played anything that wasn't contemporary. We played everything but.
Yeah.
So we were playing metal, death metal, gangster rap, which was actually some really good stuff at the time that was coming out. Anyway, we played anything that nobody else was playing, and
Yeah.
I'd play Starflyer 59 and then go to Paramecium. So we just wanted to be
Nice.
as broad and weird as we could, and it
Yeah.
worked pretty well.
Well, my show was kind of fun because, like, say, they didn't have many records yet. This was still when it was records. I'm talking 1987, or something.
Yeah.
So it was still vinyl, but they'd only had a few promos. And I remember they had like 3 metal albums. So I had to cart all my stuff over every night for my show. I had like 2 milk crates full of vinyl, But I remember my very first show, I thought I'm going to do a mix of Christian metal and non-Christian metal. So I played some Daniel Band, Striper, Bloodgood, Messiah Prophet. I also played like the Canadian speed metal band Exciter, and I played Fifth Angel.
I remember them.
And I played, like Fate's Warning. And so it was a, Anthrax, whatever. So it was a mix of everything, but I kept getting the Christian metal in there too.
Good for you. That's the way we just drop nuggets. We're just
Yeah.
positive light, right? All right, we reached the point in our show today, Wade, that we're going to do our final 4. We got to drop 4 quick questions on you.
All right.
Give us the answer. The first thing that pops in your head. This is a lightning round. It's also made to be fun. Number 1, please tell us who your favorite drummer is of all time.
Oh,
Just
dang.
one.
One? Dang. Can I pick? Oh, man. You have to
So
top
your
20.
only
Top
favorite.
20 would be tough, but
I know. I tell you what, give me 3, but one that the one has to stand up above everybody else.
Well, I would say just for his sheer power and the way he plays Tommy Aldridge.
Oh,
I was blessed to see him with Whitesnake back in '87 on that tour. And then I've seen him do a couple drum clinics. And plus, he's a fellow believer. Very cool guy.
Awesome.
He
I
just
did
plays
not know
with
that.
power, Yeah. I got to say Robert Sweet. I mean, come on. People might flag you for that. Like, oh, you're just going with you have to say Robert Sweet. No, I love Robert Sweet. I mean, the whole thing when he came out and was the visual timekeeper, sat sideways. He was so animated as he plays, still is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got power. I mean, the guy plays hard, I'd say Robert Sweet. And the third one, man, that's tough. I mean, at least I was a huge Kiss fan. You could say Peter Criss, but I'm going to say, gosh, who would the third one be? Man, that's tough to narrow it down.
Drop a name.
Yeah. Well, okay, this guy, just because he's technically blows my mind every time I watch him, Bobby Jarzenbeck. Have you heard of him?
I have heard of him. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because he played with Riot, he's played with Faith
Yes.
Warning, he's played with, but that guy, if you watch any of his instrumental stuff he does, and he had a band with his brother called Spastic Inc., which was just this progressive, crazy stuff. I mean, the guy is just, and he plays open-handed, which means, he does the hi-hat with his left hand instead of his right. He plays open, and I mean, he's like an octopus. His 2 arms turn into 12.
I don't think it was Drumeo that he was on, that YouTube show that highlights drummers. They just had the one on today, the new kid that's playing for Sting. He's amazing too. Very, very sound, not technical. He's sound, and he's just a master timekeeper, and he's like 25 or 26. Anyway, it wasn't on one of those shows, but it was a show like it where Bobby was on that, and I had never really heard of him. I didn't recognize who he was.
Yeah.
Blew me away. That was a couple years ago. It's funny you brought him up. Okay. When in Chicago, not in Chicago, but when in Chicago, where do you eat?
Well, they have it down here now, but it was always Giordano's Pizza because we didn't have that. But they've moved down here now. There's one about 45 minutes away in a town called Bloomington, but we like Giordano's. Gino's East. Usually it's going to be some kind of pizza pasta place that we don't have.
And they're going to follow Chicago style pizza, right? Or is it just pizza? Like,
it's just pizza. I'll admit that I'm not a big fan of the Chicago style. Like we were talking like the slab-o pizza,
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you order it, you got to wait an hour because it's so thick, it takes forever to cook. So I always feel like I'm just eating a loaf of bread with some stuff on top. It's so much dough. So I'm more of a hand toss guy than the deep dish,
Okay, fair enough. But duly noted. We'll check it out. All right. Well, when in Illinois, and you said the name of it again is?
Well, there's Giordano's.
Giordano's.
Gino's East. Yeah.
All right, Giordano's. We'll just keep note of that. All right. What sport do you follow the most?
Ooh, can I be honest for a second?
Yep.
None. I'm not a
Oh,
sports
good for
guy.
you. Okay.
I don't
Does that mean you're
hate
an Olympics
sports, but
guy?
I just don't enjoy watching them and I don't really follow them. So,
Do you enjoy the Olympics?
um, a little bit. Probably the winter more than the summer.
I find more
You know.
times when people aren't really sports fans that they follow the Olympics. I'm a huge Olympic fan. Huge. Those
Yeah.
2 weeks are just decadence for me. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm also a fan of other sports. But I talk to
Yeah.
people who are like, yeah, I'll watch the Olympics. I thought it.
Well, it's funny because my wife is a
You.
sports fan of the family. She likes, NFL football. She loves college basketball. She was really into the World Series this year and watched all of it, But me, I'm like, yeah, if I got time to kill and I can watch stuff, I'm either going to watch some YouTube videos of bands or I'm going to watch like some sci-fi action thing or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Well, and not to say that you not being a sports fan isn't a good thing, but it means that your wife is really cool. I knew that she was
She
one of
is.
them. She seemed
She's
pretty
pretty
nice.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys she stuck it out with you for all these years.
Oh, yes, she has.
All right. Last question I have for you. So, what is your guilty pleasure in sci-fi?
Sci. Well, it's funny. Well, I don't know if this would be my guilty pleasure, but I just finished watching it. So when I was a kid, and you might remember when we were kids, there was the series V. It was a mini series on TV.
Yes, I do
So
remember that.
I didn't realize that had got sort of remade like 10 years ago. And so I found it on like Tubi or whatever that app is called that has like free stuff.
Yeah.
And so I just finished watching V again. And there was
How
only two
was the-
seasons, and then I guess they canceled it. But
How was the reboot?
I enjoyed it, It was pretty cool. But then
The
it was like,
first
it was
one
funny
was
'cause my wife really didn't like it, but she got sucked in only because I was watching it. And then when it ended, she's like, what do you mean there's no more? I'm like, that's it. There was only the two seasons. She's like, oh, you made me watch this, and now I'll never know what happened.
This is why communication in marriages or any life forms of life is important. I didn't know. My wife was like, she told me she's getting ready to have a foot surgery in a couple weeks. She said, I'll actually watch that. I'd like to watch that Band of Brothers with you. I was like,
Ooh,
what? She's
sweet.
like, yeah, I really like that history stuff. I'm like, say no more. Say no more. We're going to binge watch
Yeah.
Band of Brothers in the Pacific. So Masters
Yeah.
of the Air comes out in January on Apple TV.
Nice.
So love World War II stuff, but okay.
Yeah. Well,
All
I'd say my, favorite genres for movies are probably sci-fi fantasy. I mean, let's face it, when Lord of the Rings came out, it changed fantasy to be cool. Because before it was just,
Right.
the nerdy little genre that didn't get any respect, and all of a sudden it got respect. And I mean, it's been so cool to see all these cool fantasy themed shows come out that are done so well.
Yeah. Did you see the follow-up Ring series that was
Rings of Power on Amazon?
Rings of Power?
Oh, yeah.
I was impressed.
And I watched Wheel of Time on Amazon. I finished both seasons of that. And
haven't watched that yet. I'll have to check it out. Okay. Thank you very much. Wade, as your parting words, I want you to tell the people who are getting to know you today, and we're going to check out InnerSiege. Give us from a believer standpoint, give us a word of encouragement. The floor is yours. 30,
cool.
45, 60 seconds. Take it.
Well, I would just say, first of all, thank you for listening. Thank you for checking out our music. If you do decide to go check it out, we appreciate that very much. I mean, we're just five dudes, trying to make our way in this life like everybody else. But the fact that we get to play music is such a cool honor. I mean, seriously, every week when we have band practice, I pray and I thank God for the gift of music. I thank him for these guys I get to play it with, because music's been so influential and powerful in my life. So I'm thankful for the opportunity. And I would say, don't give up on your dreams. I mean, I was the 10-year-old kid in my bedroom with a tennis racket trying to be Ace Frehley, trying to be Peter Criss, whatever. And like I say, I'm 55. It's taken way more years than I thought, but don't give up on your dreams, because you may think nobody's going to ever give you the time of day. This isn't going to work out. You're too old or not talented enough, but if God wants it to happen, it's going to happen. If there's a passion planted in you, follow that with everything you got, man. Don't give up on your passions. And above all, follow Christ with their whole heart. Difficult to do some days. I screw up like everybody else. We're not perfect, but keep trying, get back up again.
Good words of advice, my brother. Thank you for that. Good words of encouragement. Got to say that picture of the drum set behind you in the 5 parts, that is tasty.
Well, I found that on Amazon last year. So I put it in like my little Amazon, like, oh, I should save that for later. And my wife got it for me for Christmas. So it's really cool because it's like 5 different ones together in a mural. So it's not my drum set, but it's cool.
It's still cool. I
Yeah.
had to turn my camera so that Gage could see, because he's sitting over here without being able to. We got to set up a dual monitor system so you could watch the interview at a full length.
Yeah, thanks.
He does an amazing job of putting all this together and splicing in all this stuff. So we really
Awesome.
appreciate him. Well,
Thank you,
certainly,
Gage.
Wade,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Brother, thank you for the time today. We took almost an hour from you, and I appreciate every time, every minute you spent with us today, brother. We're going to check out the music more and more. And I've really fallen in love with that second album. I'm going to go back and watch on YouTube the first album and listen to it. And we will make sure that to be ready to go for that Immortal Fest, so we can, when you guys hit the stage, I can jump up there and in front of the stage and sing along with you, because I like
That'd be
doing
awesome.
it, you guys. All right. Well,
Yeah.
give our best to your wife and to the brothers in the band, and tell them to keep grinding, and that we're praying for all of you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. Have a great day, Wade. Appreciate you again.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.